Hi guys, good afternoon. Welcome to the channel. My name is Niladri Mukherjee and I am a regulated Canadian immigration consultant. I practice here in Guelph, Ontario. It's good to be back in one of the live streams today and talk about Express Entry, right? In this channel, we do not really talk a lot about Express Entry, or rather, we haven't really spoken a lot about Express Entry off late because, well, we know the reality, right? The draws do not happen. The draws just didn't happen in the last year or so. But now the immigration minister is saying that the government is finally planning to start the draws from July 6th of this year, and hence I thought it's a good idea to talk a little bit about Express Entry. What is it? Give you a little bit of history, break it down a little bit, because this video is going to be a lot on the basics. Like, if you're starting out, if you really want to know how to move to Canada, what is an Express Entry, what is this myth about Express Entry, what is PNP, all those things, you would probably get your answers in this video. And towards the end, I am also going to talk about what you should do to make yourself competitive, to, in other words, to keep your competitive spirit intact, or how to be more competitive, or how to forecast what is going to happen in the future so that you could prepare accordingly, right? So let's just jump right onto it. So let's start with what is Express Entry, so, right? Or rather, start with what is not Express Entry, right? Because many people tell me that, hey, I want to move to Canada through Express Entry program. What you have to understand is that there is no such program called Express Entry. Express Entry is not an immigration program in itself. Express Entry is just an online system for the federal government of Canada to digitize their immigration system. Why this happened? Because obviously this is more slick. This is way better than having to manage all those paper applications. So let's have the fundamentals clear. Let's have the basics clear. Express Entry is not an immigration system in itself. This is just an online system to manage the Federal Skilled Worker Program, which we otherwise know as FSWP. So almost all, if not all, the Express Entry, all the federal skilled worker related programs, including provincial nominee programs, are being managed by the federal government of Canada using an online system. That system is known as Express Entry, right? So this is the basic. Now, second most important thing that you have to understand is that immigration is a shared responsibility here in Canada. It's a shared responsibility between the federal government of Canada and the various provinces and territories of Canada. So we have 10 provinces and 3 territories of Canada, and obviously one federal government that runs this whole system, right? So when we say Express Entry, that is being managed by predominantly by the federal government of Canada. But again, we have 10 provinces. All those 10 provinces have their own shared, they share immigration responsibilities along with the federal government, meaning that if they feel that they need some specific people in their provinces to fill up their labor market requirements, they have the right to conduct their own draws, select candidates, which we otherwise known as PNP, like provincial nominee programs, through which all the provinces select, they have the right to select the required and the desired kind of candidates that they feel would fulfill their labor market requirements. But what you have to understand is that provinces can only select candidates, right? The ultimate decision of the admissibility, be it a criminal admissibility, medical admissibility, meaning that whether those people will be allowed to enter into the country or not, will be taken by the federal government. Hence, once you get an invitation to apply from a province, you have to apply, in most cases, that invitation to apply into your Express Entry profile to claim those extra points, and then the federal immigration officers take up the work from there, right? So immigration is a shared responsibility between the province and the federal government of Canada. All the provinces have the right to pick and choose the candidate, but the final admissibility and the final medical admissibility, security clearance, background check, and everything else will be taken care of by the federal government of Canada, right? So in from the year December 2020 till about today, we have not seen a single express entry draws for outside Canada candidates. But we have seen a lot of PNP draws. In fact, PNP draws have been continuing forever during whole COVID. We did not really see a month where there was no PNP draws, right? So let's just try to understand what is a no program specific draws and what is a PNP draw. Now, as I have just said, that the provinces, all the provinces have the right to pick and choose candidate that they feel will be adding value onto their respective province. So when a province holds up a draw, they have their own criteria. Some have the criteria that you have to have a job offer, some have a criteria that you have to have a family connection, or some simply pick and choose based on the NOC code. It really varies. It's a very complicated process, and each and every province have its own criteria that's being mentioned in all the respective provincial websites. But majority of the provincial nominee programs, I said majority of the provincial nominee programs, you have to have a job offer. Once you have a job offer, you can apply that extra points. You get some extra points, apply that onto your express entry profile, and get yourself, the nomination for it, right? So when you say a program specific draw, we predominantly mean the PNPs, because PNPs are inviting specific people that they feel welcome, that they feel will be adding value to their provinces. So these are program specific or province specific draws. When we say no program specific draws, which means that you have a CRS point and then everybody that falls above those CRS points will be welcoming into our country or will be getting the invitation to apply, right? So when we say an express entry draw normally did not happen since December 2020, we typically mean that express entry no program specific draws did not happen till 2020, but all the provinces have had their requirements that they thought should add value to their provinces, and hence all the provincial nominee draws have been continuing to happening. Now, at this point in time, the federal government of Canada, the Minister Sean Fraser, is saying that they are planning to start the no program specific draws starting July the 6th, 2020. Hence, meaning that the traditionally the basically the government is saying that the traditional or the usual form of express entry is going to come back, meaning that if you're sitting outside Canada with a CRS of certain number, and I will talk about that in a second, you are probably now expected to get an invitation to apply, right? So this is what the government is saying will happen. So let's just try to understand how to create an express entry profile, or what are the prerequisites that you need to have in order for you to create an express entry profile. First and foremost, you have to appear for a language test, right? Either IELTS or CELPIP or a French exam. You have to appear for a language test. You have to have your degrees or diplomas evaluated by a Canadian association, which we otherwise known as a ECA, Educational Credential Assessment. Then you have to have at least, or best to have at least 3+ years of experience. You sum all those up, you have a certain number of points, you create the profile, and then you simply use to wait. When the CRS or the cumulative ranking system score used to falling behind your score, you used to get automatically an invitation to apply. That used to be a simple straightforward pathway to get an invitation to apply, and that used to be one of the slickest and best system that in my opinion, any country has adopted in the past, but that has now been stopped, right? So these are the fundamental things that you have to keep in mind, that you have to have a language exam, or you have to have taken a language exam and have to apply that score onto your express entry profile, or use that score to create your express entry profile. You have to get your educational documents assessed, you have to have some professional experience, and then you are good to go. And obviously there are like proof of funds and all those things that will come into play. So who really has benefited from this express entry system? A lot of people, including myself. I have immigrated to Canada using express entry system. It used to be a brilliant system. You just score good in English or French, depending on your language. If you are a master degree holder, it would have been, like really a cherry on the top. You should ideally be under 30, but when I was immigrated, I was about like 33, 34. But since my language score was all right, since I had a master degree, I had decent CRS, and then I got immigrated to Canada through express entry system. So but then why there is a change? If there is a proven pathway that many people have been getting benefited from, then why the government decided to change? Well, the government has not really intentionally decided to change anything until COVID happened. COVID happened The borders closed, people were not able to come to Canada, people were not able to leave their country and obviously can come to Canada. Hence, the government, the entire process was in jeopardy, right? The entire focus has changed. The focus of the government, focus of rather our world, has shifted from immigration to saving people's life. And we haven't seen anything like COVID uh, in many years, right? This is like once in a lifetime kind of a situation. And so everybody was in jeopardy, like what to do, what not to do. And so immigration has taken a back step, government has completely stopped the draws. But at the same time, what you have to keep in mind is that while the government was not inviting people through express entry system, the people were creating the express entry profiles, which means that the number of people that are there in the pool are going up while the government is not inviting anybody, meaning that obviously there is a huge gap between the supply of the skilled resources and the demand for it. Well, there is always a demand for the skilled resources here in Canada, but the government of Canada just really couldn't figure out as to how to have those international candidates come to our country when the borders are closed. That's just not a feasible situation, right? So the government really intentionally did not want to change anything. It just have changed because of COVID. So what people have done during COVID when there was no express entry draw? Frankly speaking, majority of people have taken the study route. Study appeared as one of the most lucrative byproduct of COVID. Now, studying in Canada has always been a dream come true for many, right? Because Canadian education is definitely one of the best. The fees, the international students obviously pay a lot more than what a Canadian permanent resident or a Canadian citizen would pay. But at the same time, if you compare Canada along with its global peer, maybe US or maybe UK, Canada still ranks way less when it comes to the international student fees, the tuition fees. And let's not forget that if you are a student in Canada, if you can come to Canada as a student, you will have like numerous pathways to choose for your potential permanent residency. So study has become the most lucrative option, right? For majority of the people, and the majority of people, irrespective of the age bracket, have successfully made have successfully entered into Canada as students. And now they're like whoever has completed the studies are in the process of submitting their permanent residency applications. So study has become a good amount, like a the most lucrative option. Like, but if you did not want to take study as the route to enter Canada during COVID or till between December 2020 until now, what were you doing? You have been waiting in the pool. So let's just try to see like how many people are currently in the pool. Now, if I take a quick look at the statistics, and I'm just looking at the Government of Canada website, the website is telling me that between the CRS of 600 and 1200, we have 664 people waiting in the pool. Between the CRS of 501 and 600, we have 8017 people waiting in the pool. But between 451 and 500, we have a whooping 56,000 people waiting in the pool. So that's a huge number of you that are waiting in the pool with an anticipation of express entry draws to happen and the situation to clear up so that you can come to Canada, which is understandable because study is not for everybody. It is not really easy to be a student at the age of 35. You may have your financial issues, you may have your aspirational, your career aspirational issues. It could be anything. It's completely your personal choice. But these are the people, like over 56,000 people, that have just been waiting between the CRS of 451 and 500. So, how long it takes? So, for example, now the government is saying that the all no program specific draws, which we have defined, previously, will start to happen from July 6th. So, what will happen if the government starts no program specific draws on July 6th? So, if we remember the history, the historical figure, government used to invite about, say, on an average 4,000 folks from the pool at each draw, and the draws used to happen in an interval of 2 weeks. So every alternate Wednesday we used to have a draw. So if the government, I'm making an assumption that the government continues exactly at the same way that it used to do before COVID, it will take approximately 6 to 7 months to clear up this entire backlog. Now, this is the most optimistic situation. This is the most normal situation. I still have doubt whether government will continue the normal, like the no program specific draws, exactly like the way it used to do before. I have a high doubt on that, but I'll keep my fingers crossed and I will see. But even if the government does it, it is going to take at least 6 months, 6 to 7 months to clear up this entire backlog. So if you are waiting in the pool, and if your CRS is between 451 to 500, what you should really do, that what if your CRS is 480 plus? Because remember, if you're 30 plus, right, if you're 30 plus, then with each birthday you lose 5 points. So if your birthday falls in between now and next 6 7 months, and if you do not get an invitation to apply between July 6th, assuming that the draws actually happen on July 6th, and next 6 7 months down the line, your CRS may potentially decrease, meaning that you will obviously lose on your competitive spirit, right? So why this all this confusion happening? And while everything seems to be in a mess, you have to really deep dive and try to understand why the government is doing what it is doing, why the government has taken so much of time to be starting to essentially announce to start a no program specific draws. What you have to really understand at this point in time is that not everybody that comes to Canada stay here as a PR. Why this is important? This is important because in the year 2020 and 2021, over 30% of the permanent residents have left Canada. Why they have left Canada? Their personal decisions. Few people, must not have liked Canada. Few people must have felt very isolated. Few people must have felt very lonely. I don't know, but these are the realities that you have to face once you come to Canada. But again, if you just flip the coin and see it from government's perspective, if the government is spending so much of time to assess your profile, and if you come to Canada and obviously to give you a permanent residency, and you're coming to Canada and you're living within 6 months, for example, that is not really helping the government, because at the end of the day, the government's objective is to create more and more taxpayers, which is why the immigration happens, because of our shrinking population. If we do not invite the people from outside, our population will just diminish. That is not good for any country, right? So if those skilled resources that are coming to Canada as a peer and then leaving, that is not fulfilling the government's objective. And then the COVID happened, so the government has realized that it's a good idea to impart permanent residency in a gradual fashion, in a graduation fashion. What does it mean? Now the government, if you just analyze whatever is happening in the past, and relate this to this news, government of Canada is wanting you to come here as a temporary resident, experience the country, get yourself a Canadian education, maybe have a job, come alone, and then maybe bring your family. It depends on person to person. Basically experience the country, experience the weather, experience the people, experience food, see whether you like it. If you do, then put the effort to become a permanent residency. In other words, first become a TR, then become a PR. Because if you see the number of people, like I just mentioned, over 8,000 people are sitting between the CRS of 501 and 600, right? So who are these people? These are the students, these are the Canadian experience class, because otherwise, no matter whatever you do, your CRS will not exit 500 if you are sitting between 501 and 600. And that too, there are 8,000 of them. So these are the Canadian experience class. But if you see the series between 451 and 500, that's over 56,000 of you, right? So what if your age is 32? What if your age is 33? You cannot really score a CRS more than 465 to 470. So what you do in that case? You cannot just endlessly wait in the pool, because if your birthday falls tomorrow, you will lose 5 points. So you lose 5 points means somebody gains those 5 points, right? So it's always a balancing act. So you really have to understand the psychology as to what the government is wanting you to do, and change your immigration strategy accordingly. The government wants you to be a TR first and then become a PR. So it's a logical option. If you can take this TR to PR pathway, I'm not saying this is a government pathway. I'm not referring to the 2020 or 2021 TR to PR pathway. I'm talking about the psychological shift of the government, and how you can potentially, or how you should potentially adapt to this, psychological shift, and change or strategize or re-strategize your immigration journey. So what you need to do, right? See, say in a very approximate kind of a situation, right? Because individual case specific situations are very different. Those are answered over consultations, as you know it. But say on a very approximate basis, if you're sitting in the range of 480 plus, if your CRS is over 480 plus, you really do not need to do anything. At least just wait, just wait for a month or two, see how the situation goes, and then take the next step, right? Because I would not ask you to go for the provincial nominee programs, because as I have said before, immigration is a shared responsibility. And hence, if you take a provincial nominee program, uh, the provinces would assess your profile first, and then it goes to the federal, which means more time in processing the application. So if you're sitting on the squeeze, CRS of 480 plus, just simply wait. Don't do anything. Wait for a month or two or maybe 3 months. Give yourself a quarter, see how the situation goes, and take the next step accordingly. But if your CRS is between 450 and 500, you really need to act, because you guys have then done everything well in your life so far, but it's just because of the increasing amount of new folks into the pool, plus there's this existing backlog thing and everything, which is making you wait. Look for the provincial nominee options, look for a job offer. Now when I say look for a job offer, I really do not mean, I really do not ask you to bombard your CVs to the Canadian employees. Please don't do that, that doesn't help. But what if you can come to Canada as a visitor and meet those potential employees? This is really not that difficult. If you plan things in advance, you can really get a good deal on the flight ticket. You really do not have to take a direct flight, you can take an indirect flight. Stay here in an Airbnb, like, just designate a budget of maybe $5,000, maybe spend a month or two and see if you can get a job offer, while you're in Canada. And if not anything, if you apply for a visitor visa to Canada, for example, and if you go to Manitoba, you can then potentially establish your connection to Manitoba in some way or the other, should Manitoba invites you in the future. For example, now this is just an approximate situation, this is just a general situation, but between 451 and 500 tells me that you really have a lot to do if you have not done those things already. Look for the provincial nominee program, look for Alberta as a province, look for New Brunswick as a province, right? Look for the job offers from the Atlantic immigration pilots, or the Atlantic immigration designated employers. Getting a job offer from outside Canada used to be a humongous task. I'm still saying this is very difficult, but these days the number of hirings, the number of vacancies are so very high that people have changed their mind. Government have also changed their mind with respect to amending their LMIR requirements and whatnot. So act on it. So if you are thinking whether to accept an invitation to apply, just an invite from a province, or to just wait for the federal draws to reopen, my request would be just take whatever you get, just whatever comes on your way. If you get an invitation to apply from like an ITA from Ontario, take that. If you get it from Alberta, take that. Do not have to think at this point in time, well, I do not want to go to Alberta, I do not want to go to New Brunswick, my cousin lives in Mississauga, I want to go to only to Brampton. You do not have to think that ways. Do not forget that Canada is a beautiful country. It's an equally safe place. If your cousin lives in Mississauga, for example, and if you get an invitation to apply from Alberta, you could still meet your cousin maybe once in 3-4 months if you want to. Or if you want to be with your cousin from day one, maybe you can come to Alberta and then move to Mississauga. Remember, whatever contractual obligations you have with the province ends the moment you become your permanent resident. And if you do not stay in a province which has invited you, this is not going to be having any kind of legal implications on your PR or your citizenship, right? Do not have those notions in mind that I want to live in Toronto, I want to live in Mississauga, or maybe I want to live in Vancouver. If you get an invitation to apply from a province that you absolutely hate, take that. Whether you should leave the province or not, that's on your personal aspect, but you will not have any legal repercussions, right? If you leave that province. So in essence, look for PNPs. Now the flip side of PNPs, I mind you, is that a very 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 long processing time. Just to give an example, Saskatchewan, even in the pre-COVID days, used to take 1.5 years to process their application. Then it used to go to the federal stage, meaning at least more than 1.5 years for sure, at least 2 years kind of a processing time, right? And always remember that if you get an invitation to apply, that does not really mean that you will get your PR for sure. there is no surety in anything, but you get an invitation to apply really does not mean that you will you will be accepted by the federal government, because province only sends an invite, and then it really depends on your documentation as to how strong your documentation is, how strong you're able to prove everything which you have said at the pre-ITA stage, and only then you're being accepted and then being federally being invited to Canada as a PR. So if you want to give yourself that much amount of time, then PNP is it's fine. It's less costly, obviously. But if you really want to do it faster, if you really do not want to sooner, do want to do it sooner, then study visa or the study pathway is the only logical option at this point in time, because that really works, and that goes quite in tandem with what the government is saying, which is to become a tier first, which is to become a temporary resident first and then become a permanent residency. So gone are those days. Those days may still come back. I really do not believe in forecasting situation because I'm not capable of, simply speaking. And previously the immigration minister has said that the draws would resume in the fall, and now he's saying in summer. And I really do not know how still the COVID situation would change, because there is a huge amount of backlogs that the government is dealing with. And with every passing day, I could tell you is that the interest of Canada as a country is becoming more and more lucrative. So the number that I have just mentioned are the existing number as on the day of shooting this video. Do remember that with every minute, with every second, the candidates are being added up into the pool. So, which means that with every minute and with every second, the process is becoming that much more competitive. So, whether you really want to wait and watch kind of a situation, you may be very happy where you are. It's completely up to you, right? You may be, working with McKinsey, you may be working with BCG, you might be making over $1 million a year. So, Canada may be working for you as a backup option. But I know a lot, and I know a lot of people that have tried a lot of that have given a lot in the past year or two to make it to Canada, and still they're in the pool because there has not been a single draw. So if you are one of those go getters, and if you think you could afford a Canadian study visa or a Canadian student pathway, irrespective of your age, doesn't really matter whether if you're 32 or 23 or 42, if you could prove that you will be a bona fide student here in Canada, you will be invited, and eventually you will get a permanent residency. I cannot tell for sure, because using terms like for sure, guarantee, and 100%, all those are unlawful. I cannot use those terms as a licensed immigration consultant. But the possibility of you becoming a permanent residency in the future, if you can become a temporary resident today, is very, very high, at least at this point in time. And if my assumption is correct, I really think this is how the government has now going to be. And let's not forget, I know I did not touch about the bill C-19 motion 44, where the immigration minister is saying that now he will be now vested with more rights, more discretionary power to pick and choose candidates from the pool, irrespective of the CRS. So what does that mean? Meaning that if you are 450, and if somebody with your kind of a skill set or a better skill set in the mind of immigration minister, is sitting with the CRS of 423, the minister will then have a right to pick and choose that very specific people, that very specific segment, who may be sitting at a lower CRS than you. So that is going to change the entire express entry system. So the express entry system is already evolving a lot. I would say has already evolved a lot. And my anticipation is that in between July, if the draw comes out in July and December 2022, I would expect, and I think the express entry system will change a lot. And if those discretionary power really comes into picture, which I think it will, because noting the current status of the bill, it is going to be a little bit more problematic for majority of you that are waiting in the pool with an anticipation of an ITA. In a nutshell, this is not probably a time to just wait and watch, unless and until you are in that bracket of maybe 480 or 500. This is probably a time for you to act. The time for you to act may be to look for provincial nominee programs, maybe to look for a job offer, or maybe to come here as a student, or least you could come here as a visitor and look for a job offer here in Canada. I could tell you is that this is summer, right? And this situation will continue till about September. I could see hiring sign everywhere, particularly for the truck drivers. I think I must tell you is that particularly for the truck drivers. Like recently, I have been to the Northern Ontario, specifically to Thunder Bay, and all the way to Highway 17. When I was driving, I really could not count how many hiring signs for truck drivers I have seen. And and I could tell you is that you sent an email to that very specific employer saying that I have a driving experience, say for example in Dubai, give me a job offer. That employer will not even respond to your email. But if you can approach those employer face to face by visiting their office and saying that, hey, I know you have a hiring, I know I have the skill set, and if you can interview me and say that whether you like me or not, but I could guarantee you that once you give me the job offer, I will not bother you with the post job offer paperwork, right? I have a legal representation partner that could take care of everything for you. Your responsibility is only to evaluate me. Those kind of discussions really break the ice, and your possibility of being selected, it will be very, very high. So do not miss out on those opportunities, right? And I'm not really talking about truck driver alone, because that's the most prominent sign that I have seen, and I still see on a daily basis almost everywhere that I go. But that's not the end of the story. Even if you are a management consultant, even if you are a digital marketing expert, even if you are a purchasing procurement professional, if you are a supply chain professional, I could tell you from my experience of what I see here is that on day in and day out, the number of vacancies are quite high, and there are just no suitable resources to fill in those gaps. But this really does not mean that you can just start sending your CVs from outside Canada, from all over the world, saying that, sir, give me a job offer. Nobody will respond to those emails, at least 99.9% of the times. So if you are not interested in the student option, even if your CRS does not fall, say for example you are too old, in line with the definition of immigration to Canada, right? For example, you're 45 plus, so your express entry score will be negligible anyways. What you do, come to Canada as a visitor, and maybe look for a job offer. It's easier said than done, I understand. And do not really have to think about converting my visitor visa into a work permit, those kind of a situation. Those are more on theory, those are more on paper than in practicality. Those that tell you to convert, yes, I will convert your visitor visa into work permit, majority of them do not really know how flag polling situations work, right? So you do not have to think about converting your visitor visa into a work permit. It's more about you getting a temporary resident status first, which means you getting a visitor visa first. Come to Canada as a visitor, and then explore the country a little bit, explore those employers, meet those employers if possible, and then see what kind of provincial nominee programs, or if your employer is based out of Atlantic Canada, you could very well be invited under the Atlantic Immigration Program. So opportunities do exist. The only change that happened or is happening at this point in time, and I would anticipate the same situation to continue in future as well, is the mindset of the government. And hence, I would imagine we all need to change our mindset as well, to make ourselves more competitive, to make ourselves more visible, to be able to ensure that our ultimate dream of coming to Canada becomes a reality. In other words, we need to re strategize ourselves. Once we do it, I would tend to believe that. It will have to happen, because you have to put a lot of work, you have to put a lot of effort, you have to think a little bit differently. And coming to Canada, again, I cannot stress it enough, if you are able to come to Canada, that is going to change the situation for you, at least for 50% of you. If you can come to Canada and visit those right places, do not come to Canada and just kept on staying in Toronto. Go to those far off places, where you think there will be job opening. I could tell you, I know a lot of places that I have just been and seen a lot of hiring sign, right? So go to those places, meet those employers, and I could tell you the situation should change. At least there is no harm in coming here and have those discussions going, right? So re-strategize it. If you need professional assistance, come for a consultation. Visit the website nuvonation.ca/professional consultation. Come for a consultation, talk to me face to face. I'll be very happy to evaluate your situation, and will try my best to come out with a constructive immigration plan for you. I see a question here. that says that I'm from Africa, but can India be regarded as a travel history for Canada visiting visa? Because Gulf countries are not regarded as travel history. Any international trip that you take would be part of your travel history. It could be India, it could be Pakistan, it could be Gulf country. If your question is whether your travel history, if you show a lot of travel history, whether that will be important, that will be an important factor for the government of Canada to evaluate your temporary resident or visitor visa application? Yes and no. Yes, because psychologically speaking, the government feels that, the immigration officers feel that if you have visited a lot of countries and I have returned from those countries, yes, there is a possibility that you will leave Canada as well. No, because by law, a travel history cannot be a determining factor for an individual visa application acceptance or rejection when it comes to a temporary resident visa. So if you think the Gulf countries travel history are not important, travel history to India will be important, this is not really a right way to think. What you have to understand, and now that you have brought out this topic for travel history, I think this is a very important question that I should address here, is that travel history, if you have a smooth travel history, that is given a neutral impact on your immigration application, meaning that you have visited 15 countries, maybe all the 15 countries in Asia, small little countries with a visa on arrival situation, right? You've been to Thailand, you've been to maybe, say for example, Vietnam, you've received visa on arrival, you've been there for tourism, you have returned back to Africa or any other country, your home country. But say for example, if you have gone to US and overstayed there, right? So your visit to 15 countries and leaving those countries on time would negate because you have overstayed in a major country. Just so you know, Canada has an information sharing agreement with US, with Australia, with New Zealand, with UK. If you have done any goof off in these countries, the the possibility of acceptance will be very less. But if you have a visa for those countries, by law, the government cannot tell you that yes, you will be receiving a visa by default, because I have seen a lot of cases with having a UK visa, with US visa, with Australia visa, receiving Canada visa rejection because that application was not done properly. But if you are able to, if you have those visas, the weightage, if you what you otherwise call as travel history, will be way higher. I hope that answers the question. I hope this helps. If you need our professional assistance, kindly visit the website nuvonation.ca and book a consultation. I'll be more than happy to help you out. I hope this helps, and I will see you in the next live stream. Bye, guys. Have a great day ahead.